Alright, today's video, we're going to be filming the last video on this. We're going to be buttoning up the alarm, velcroing and zip tying the alarm up in its location where it's going to be and rest. Put everything back together, do the final testing. Let's go ahead and get started and get her done. Alright, so here's all of our wiring. Basically what we got here is all of our wiring for the alarm. So over here we have our relays. These two are going to go to a central location, probably up over here. These two relays right here, one is for the ignition, third ignition, the other one is for the starter kill. They're both ignition based, so I'm going to zip tie them up here to probably the wire harness somewhere. And then this brain's actually going to go up and like right above the emergency brake pedal. And then I'll kind of zip tie and tie everything up, and I'll come back in a minute. So one thing I want to know, before you zip tie this up and put the alarm up in its central location where it's going to stay, you always want to double check, triple check everything. Check the remote start, check make sure relays aren't getting hot, check make sure all your connections are good. You want to go through all that process several times. Check door locks, check all the hood pins, everything. Make sure everything is working before you put it up in its location. And then when you're done putting it up in the location, you also want to recheck everything. Make sure that all the stuff is still connected, no wires come disconnected, no looms are loose, everything's tight. You also want to make sure that your relays are zip tied. There, if you notice, there's a little hook on there or a little hole. Make sure that they're zip tied nice and tight so that they don't bounce around. A very important part too, you want to make sure that they're not contacting any other ground or any other hot wire, anything like that. So always make sure you do that. Make sure that they're nice and snug, and make sure you check everything before you mount it up in there and after, just to make sure that it's foolproof. You don't have problems later down the road. Now what I did is I put the relay for the third ignition over here and zip tied it. And the other relay, I believe that's for the starter kill, zip tied it to there. And then also you want to check and make sure that your tilt works without any resistance. So that's always important to make sure. And then this has enough play and leeway that I can put that bracket that goes across here in place. All right, one thing I wanted to point out to you guys that I didn't show in the last video, this wire right here is the neutral safety switch. And it just has a little toggle switch, but what I did is I just cut that out, put a little butt connector in its place, just because when I stuff this up into the dash, that toggle switch may get flipped, and if it does, then the remote start will not work. So I just connected that together, and then I zip tied it into place so that it's out of the way. So our next move is going to be, we're going to take these two sets of relays and we're going to mount them up over here in that location. Now what I've done is I've just kind of zip tied the wires all together and kind of zip tied the wire loom to the actual brain itself. Just kind of helps keep some of the pressure off. I've zip tied the main power wire and the fuses to the main harness here. And then the two relays here are separate by themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff the alarm up inside the dash right here. And then I'm going to kind of fasten them with these two relays at the end. And I'll come back and show you in a second. Now I got that all the way up high in there. It's just sitting kind of right above that fuse block. And then I've got it zip tied to the wires. You can kind of see the little fuses up there. And then I've got these relays here. And what I'm going to do with the relays is I'm just going to turn them like this. And I'm going to zip tie them underneath like this, both of them side by side. And that'll kind of help keep the alarm up there and keep it from, vibrating and falling down. So there it is. Basically took my relays and I fastened them to the harness. And then the brain's up here. And you come back and you look, it's all nice and clean. Wires are all out of the way. So now we'll go ahead and put these brackets on and the lower dash panel, and we'll be all done and test it all up.